goes.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen. Another day, another Eagles practice. Day number 6 is in the books, and we are here live with you for the next 2 hours on Birds 365, a little evening edition of the show. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday evening, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, another hot one. Hopefully the weather's breaking though. It's supposed to be
better
nice
though today, right? It wasn't as much sun, John, right?
No, it was worse. It was worse than it was on what day? Tuesday.
Why, humidity?
Yeah, I checked. Yeah, the humidity was insane. So the real feel at the end of practice, according to AccuWeather, was 108.
Oh,
yeah, at the end of practice.
What do you wear like a big bucket hat or what? No,
just a baseball cap.
It's a baseball hat. I could see you rocking like one of those big flowy buckets that covers the neck. And
I do have a bucket hat.
Yeah,
I haven't broken it out this year.
Might have to get you a big
Tanner McKee likes
Yeah, he's a bucket guy.
Tanner McKee, yeah, he likes the bucket hat. He likes the bucket hat. I do have one, but I haven't. I should have broke it out today, as you say that, but didn't even think about it.
Yeah, good stuff there, John. John, we'll get into some of the practice, some of the things that went on today, but another good day for the defense. A couple names emerging, which is always fun. And I don't know what you have to think about this, but I'm being told the offense is struggling. I don't know if that's true or not true or a big overreaction. We'll talk about all that on the show tonight. John, before we get into that, Michael Clay spoke today. We'll get into your takes on him. I know you wrote an article up about that on Sports Illustrated that we'll touch on. Just your overall thoughts from day number 6, man, down at the NovaCare Complex. And now number 6 is in the books, and number 7 will kick off tomorrow.
Yeah, it's interesting because I wrote about that with Dallas Goedert as well. So they have been sloppy over the past 2 days offensively, which, I've talked a lot about that J.J. Watt thing on X, and J.J. explaining why you shouldn't, grade. You shouldn't look at practice stats. You shouldn't grade practice like a game, stuff like that. So, I brought up to Dallas afterward, about all the pre-snap problems, and he added the context, which I put down. Over the past week, they've been funneling in loud crowd noise, loud music, and to the point where if you get too close to the speakers and you have like an Apple Watch or a smart watch, you'll get an alert that the decibel level's too high and to get the hell away from it. That's how loud the noise has been.
Yeah. So
I asked Dallas about all the pre-snap penalties, and he said, well, we've been working on silent counts over the last week, and we've been working. So they've been specifically working on silent counts, loud noises over the past couple of days, which include the 2 days where they've had a lot of pre-snap penalties, which it's still not good because you don't want pre-snap penalties in that. But, I think you have to add that context into it. So they're literally working on silent counts, which obviously you don't need in practice at NovaCare Complex, but you have to be ready to use them.
Right.
And you have a lot of young players, 4 different centers they've been using. So he mentioned the different cadences, the different sort of feel for each center. And I'd explained a lot. Again,
who was this you spoke to?
Dallas Goedert.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I asked him, and everybody can read it at si.com/NFL/Eagles, trying to pull up exactly what he said, because, I mean, if you're looking at without that context, it looks pretty bad. And not to say it's not, again. So I asked him, all the pre-snap penalties, what's going on with that? There are going to be pre-snap stuff always, he said. We've been working silent this week, silent count, Each center has got a little bit of cadence, how they do silent, turn their head nod, but it's definitely something you got to clean up.
Yeah.
Coach always says you got to do the things that take no talent well, get the ball snap, being in legal formation, not shaving motion. All of that stuff takes no talent. We talked about it and got to get it cleaned up. So they do have to get it cleaned up, but I think it's
right.
They're funneling in
multiple centers and noise. Yeah. Also, yeah.
So it's not like they're just not lining up correctly with a pristine environment. So I think it's important to add that into it.
Yeah, good context there from some of the pre-snap penalties you're seeing on the offense. Good context from Dallas Goedert added there. John, we'll talk about Michael Clay and the special teams a little bit. But the first thing I want to do, though, is kind of get into just on the practice field. I read a little bit about Eli Ricks today making a big splash. We'll talk about him. Is he in the cornerback conversation now? And then let's start on the offense, though, John. And I know you just gave context of the pre-snap, but would you classify the offense as struggling early in camp? Is it business as usual? This is every camp. Offenses are going to struggle early. What do you think's going on with the offense? And is there any level, and I mean 1%, 2%, 20%, any level of concern arising from what the offense looks like at camp?
No, I talked about Wednesday. I think the individual players, the star players, are all playing well for the most part. So, I think people get, bogged down at second team and third team reps, which are, you'd like to have superstars on the second and third team, but generally you don't have superstars. So, I mean, most of those players aren't going to be playing on game days. And, the guys who are going to be playing are pretty good. So I don't have much concern about the offense at all, to be honest. Nor if I think they perform poorly. Again, the pre-snap stuff, which I just explained, that's been an issue, but they're working on it. That's what they're trying to do. Work on silent counts, work on handling the noise, which, again, it's not like so you're going to read a lot about that from a lot of people tomorrow, I assume, as you did after, what day is it? I don't know, Tuesday's practice. They're not stopping practice and saying, hey guys, we're working on this,
right.
to JJ Watt's point. And, only because Dallas explained it, what they're working on. Now, we knew they were working on crowd noise and stuff like that because it's hard to ignore the noise. But no, I don't have. And the first 2 days, they're extremely sharp. But again, and I tempered that from the standpoint of it was all underneath stuff. It was all layups. So, all right, 95% completion percentage. Who cares? In the other vein, all right, you're throwing a bunch underneath stuff. It should be 95%. And it could have been 100 if there weren't a couple drops. As you start to evolve and get the other stuff in the offense, it becomes more difficult. You got to go downfield at some point, and it becomes more difficult. And so I don't see many problems at all with the offense. And I've said it pretty consistently. I've never seen Jalen Hurts more comfortable.
That remains right through 6, because I remember you said that big time after the first couple.
Yeah, remains. Never seen him more comfortable. Never seen him more confident on the field. He's always confident off the field, but on the field, yeah, no concerns whatsoever.
That's good. Good news there, John. Has it become obvious or clear? I know you've mentioned obviously the silent counts is what they're working on, but is there anything that you could have taken from the first 6 that would show you, okay, the offense is really working on this? I mean, the passing game is one of the big things that was talked about last year. And does it look like they're trying to work on that, trying to improve upon that? Are they – I understand they're going to be a chameleon type of team where depending on the personality of each game, they have the ability to be a great running game or a good passing team. It's going to look different every week, but have you picked up on a trend of hey, the offense really wants to get this right, or they really want to improve on this this year? Anything stick out to you in that regard?
No, not like last year. Last year, I think there was a concerted effort to, probably placate some voices outside the building, which was probably a mistake, with motion and stuff like that. But that's kind of gone back to normal, I would say, and it did last year as the season went on. It went back closer to normal. Little bit of Anaya Smith manufactured stuff. A little bit of, today they were clearly, to the point again, they were clearly working on 50-50 balls. They were throwing a lot of 50-50 balls in the end zone, which again are not high percentage throws. So, and to the point, there were so many of them, sometimes you're just working on that, as JJ pointed out. Keep going back to JJ. Sometimes you're just working on one thing, and they threw so many of them. To me, it was a dead giveaway. They were working on that. And again, that's not a high percentage throw unless you're throwing it to AJ.
Right.
And then it turns to like 70-30.
Yeah. You just talked about Jalen Hurts a little bit, John.
But, so Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, we're on a delay.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. We got our night problem. What is this?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's I don't understand it. I had no problems in the morning on Wednesday. I don't know what's going on. But
you got me right now, or what?
Am I on a delay? Yeah, I got you now.
All right. I wanted you to finish because we have the delay and then we start cutting each other off. I wanted you to go ahead and finish up, and then I was going to ask you about Jalen Hurts a little bit more.
I don't know what I was saying because I couldn't hear you. So that's what I was talking about. But as far as the offense, and by the way, you're not on a delay for me. So at least from that standpoint, but you went completely dark for a second. But yeah, I there's too much talent. 8th, that's their floor. They were 8th in 2023. They were 8th in 2024. That's their floor. 8th would be a disappointment to me.
Wow. That's pretty high. 8th is the floor?
It's pretty high for that team.
I mean, 8th is a good 8th is a
yeah. You were 8th last year.
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, everybody thinks they were bad in 2023. They were 8th. Why would they go lower than that? To me, 8th was a disappointment last year.
Right.
In the regular season. Then they turned it up in the postseason, but the postseason doesn't count when it comes to those statistics. And more like the postseason is what you should expect. They have the best offensive line in football. They got a top-tier quarterback. They got a great tight end. They got arguably the best wide receiver duo and the best running back. Why the hell 8? Why would anybody be happy with 8th?
No, I get it. I think you're right. How's Jalen look? You mentioned he still looks cool, confident, and comfortable, I think is the word you continue to use on him. But just bring us inside. He had another interception today. Again, I don't think there's any concern on any of those, but you know how people get, John. They like to make a big deal out of shit. Just talk us through how Jalen looks at practice, in command of the offense, and how it seems like how he meshes with Kevin Petullo, with another new offensive coordinator this year.
Yeah, I don't think the meshing with the coordinators any problem whatsoever. And by the way, they had a new coordinator last year and they won the Super Bowl, so that should end that narrative. And Kevin's been here since 2021, so I wouldn't use that as a crutch at all. And I don't think there's going to be any issues from that standpoint. So yeah, that's a narrative that got blown up last season, to be honest, because they struggled really during the regular season a lot, and they were still able to overcome it and go win a Super Bowl with a new offensive coordinator, new quarterbacks coach, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, that should have blown up that narrative. And I don't worry about Kevin Patullo even a little bit. Um, if this team executes well, they're going to be a really good offense. Really good offense.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, is it 1? Is it 5? Really good offense.
Yeah.
Barring injuries, but that's always baked in.
Yep, always baked in. I'm looking forward to seeing what the offense does today. John, Eli Ricks, make some plays, man. Bring us on the field from the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we're going to get to all the updates on every position battle, the safeties, the corners. Has a new corner emerged? John, are you telling me this is a 3-way race at the cornerback spot now, or is that an Ed Kratz overreaction following practice number 6?
Not yet, but I do think Eli's fighting his way into the conversation. Did have an interception today. It was really just, an overthrow over the middle of the field in the red zone. So it's kind of like, playing safety essentially, and he was able to get under the football. So it wasn't like a Reed Blankenship interception from last year where he was cutting into people. It's just an overthrow, and he was there. But still, he was getting a first team rep in that drill. And he didn't get a ton of them, but I think longer and longer it goes where Kaylee Ringo and Adoree Jackson have neither of them have locked things down. Then I think you're going to start seeing more rotation, and you've already seen that. Bick is using Quignon on both sides. He's using Kaylee on both sides. He's using Adoree on both sides. And now Eli's getting involved a little bit. So, and he does have good ball skills, which is something that is going to show up. And if you think about why he's been here for 2 years, that preseason game in Baltimore with the pick 6, if he does that again, all of a sudden, I think people are going to really start to pay attention. But I also go back to what Bick said earlier this week when he was talking about, a lot of times people only notice the splash plays, like today when Eli got the interception. Bick's looking at the other plays, like how are you handling that? How are you performing when the ball isn't coming your way? And generally nobody's even looking at that kind of stuff. So I think it's a long shot that he's going to be a starting corner, but I think where he's made the gains is that, I thought he was in danger of getting cut. I now think he's going to be a part of this team again.
Yeah, we'll see, man. So a sailing pass by Hurts, and Eli Ricks is able to make a diving interception. You remember, John, when he got that chance you brought it up now, he does seem to have a knack for making plays on the ball. He did that his rookie year in the preseason, and that ultimately, that interception, John, in his rookie year might be the reason he's still here right now, because they just hung on to him. They stashed him and hung on to him. So he does have a knack for making plays on the ball, man, and we could use that in the secondary. So maybe, just maybe, Eli Ricks plays his way onto the field.
Well, you never say never, but I do think, one of the things where Eli fell from potential, if you think back to his senior season at Alabama, his last season in college, a lot of people projected him as a potential first-round pick before the season. Then he didn't get drafted. The reason that's a pretty significant fall. The reason is he ran a 4.6, which is really poor for an outside corner in the NFL. I'm sure he's improved a little bit from that standpoint, but he's not. Most good NFL corners are 4.4 guys minimum. So, there's some concern about the speed,
Right.
but he does have a knack. And obviously the Eagles play a very zone-centric scheme. So he's got a knack to play off coverage. He's got a knack to play zone coverage. He's got a knack to play the football. So, and I would say, he made the team because of that interception his first year. Because Howie was concerned. Because remember, other teams don't get to watch the Eagles practice. They only get to see what they see on film, in games and things like that, if they have a joint practice. So anytime you see a cornerback with ball skills who's making plays, they're liable to get claimed on waivers. And Howie was concerned he'd be claimed on waivers and didn't want to risk him to that. Last year, he made the team because he made the team. And they believe in his coverage ability, and we'll see if it shakes out. But I don't think he's in the competition yet. But if he keeps playing well, he's going to get more first team reps, and he can force himself into that competition.
So another name now in the cornerback comp, not fully yet, but I do like to hear that Eli Ricks had a good practice today. John, a couple of other names sticking out again today at practice. Quinyon Mitchell continues to play very well. Jahad Campbell continues to play well. A couple of injuries that are going around. We'll talk about those a little bit more. But what did you see today from Jahad Campbell, Quinyon Mitchell, and the rest of the guys who have been starting to show some signs, John, early?
Well, I think the most interesting thing with Jahad is that, he's got to tone it back because he's, he may have hurt Ben Van Sumeren. And the day before he tackled pretty much Dallas Goedert, which you don't want to do at practice. So we'll see. But I mean, Dallas was talking about that today. He's like, you don't want to, take that away from an intense player, but he sort of got to learn that line. But we'll see how that shakes out. He got his first reps as an edge rusher today.
Yeah,
and it was kind of buried on the third team. And he didn't do well against Miles Hinton, but he's trying to bull rush, and Miles is like 320. He's trying to bull rush him. And didn't go well. But just the fact that they put him out there, it tells you eventually where they're going, and that's that hybrid role that we've talked about a lot. And they just sort of dipped their toes in the water today. But it was interesting, the edge situation as a whole, because Nolan Smith is currently out with a concussion, and they switched there. They switched Jalix Hunt from the right side. He's been strictly doing reps on the right side. They flipped him over to the left side for the first time.
That's good. We've been talking about that. I wanted them to do that.
And they inserted Azeez Ojulari over versus what they did prior, which was just put Uche and some Patrick Johnson over on the left side. So they moved Hunt around and they put Azeez Ojulari. So they're trying a bunch of different things. Ultimately, they might have to go outside the organization, or could be Jahad Campbell.
Yeah, maybe, John. Maybe it is Jahad Campbell. We will see. He started on the third team today in that edge rusher room, or at least getting some snaps off the end. We'll see how he continues to develop over there. John, I like to hear that he's. I know it's not good for practice. Obviously, you got to be able to find the line and tone it back. You don't want to be hurting your teammates, but I think it's it's better than the alternative that you have to ask a guy to tone it back on the physicality. It's better than saying, yeah, he's just not physical enough. So I'm pretty happy to hear that Jahad Campbell's tossing people around at training camp right now.
Yeah, he's an intense guy, and he's sometimes I think he doesn't know how strong he is because he's throwing people around a little bit too much.
Well, everybody's been telling him he's in the NFL now. Everybody's bigger and stronger in the NFL. He still appears to have the advantage over most.
Yeah. So Dallas, as I mentioned, Dallas is the one who got tackled by him on Tuesday, pretty much late out of bounds. And he said, I think his intensity is great. Obviously, the one he tackled me on a little bit, maybe that's not a play we want in practice. When the back's turned, a shot like that didn't bother me at all. I'm excited for him. But yeah, I want to pull people back, not push them forward. You don't want somebody who you got to be like, you got to play harder. You got to do this. You got to do that. Okay, you're playing a little bit too hard. Let's tone it down. It's a tough tightrope type of thing. But yeah, in practice, he's got to learn. It's almost like you got to learn how to practice in the
Yeah,
NFL as well.
that makes sense.
There's
Honestly.
so many. Yeah. And he's still learning that, but he's a rookie, the problem is he's a rookie. He's big and fast and physical and can hurt people.
Right. Yeah. Johnny Mac, I'm going to go right from one of your paragraphs here. I want to talk about a couple of these plays, and then you can elaborate on each of these players a little bit. But the defensive the front and offensive line got together for some stunt work. Some of the notable reps were Jordan Mailata stoning Jalix Hunt. I don't think we expected any different there. Brett Toth standing up rookie Tai Robinson. John, I'm waiting for one good news story on Tai Robinson and has yet to come. And then Moro Ojomo twisted under Josh Uche to put Matt Pryor on his heels. So 3 good notable plays there, John. Start with Jordan Mailata stoning Jalix Hunt. I don't think we expected anything different there.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan was the one who compared him to Micah earlier, and I haven't seen him make a play on Jordan. So, it's kind of
Jordan, that was a mental warfare right there. All right. That was like Art of War by Sun Tzu there from Jordan Mailata to get gassing up Jalix and then tormenting them all camp.
Yeah. It's funny though, and I bring it up all the time. Like if you went back to Jordan Mailata's first 2 years, and if anybody who remembers Joe Osman, and Jordan used to call him Smoking Joe Osman used to make Jordan Mailata's life a living hell. In individual reps and stunt work and things like that. And Joe tore his ACL and was going to make the team, but he tore his ACL. And Jordan's turned into one of the best left tackles in the world. And he still to this day, he'll still bring up Joe every once in a while and say how much he helped him. Sometimes it helps to get beat. And Nolan talks about it all the time with Lane. Sometimes it helps to get beat up in practice against really good players because you're not going to find many Jordan Mailatas or Lane Johnsons out there when you're playing on game day. So
exactly,
take your lumps in practice.
John, Brett Toth is now standing up rookie Tai Robinson. A lot of people, John, had some expectations for Tai. Maybe we put the cart before the horse. Maybe we skipped a lot of steps. I'm sure you'll be there to tell us when we do that. And I know we did it here, but are we getting anything positive on the Tai Robinson front, or is this guy going to be a red shirt basically this year? I thought he was going to have a chance to play his way into some snaps.
Well, they need a 4th defensive tackle, so I mean, to me right now, that's going to be Thomas Booker, who is clearly, more prepared to play at this stage. Yeah, I mean, there are people a little bit too excited about Tai Robinson because I don't know, the vanilla gorilla stuff, his physique. I don't know, but that's not football. And football, and he spoke to us the other day, and he knew. I talked about the Jordan Mailata play with him, and he brought it up himself. He knew he was sitting there. He couldn't disengage for like 5-6 seconds. And, he's got a lot to work on. So as Vic will say, to be kind, he's got a lot to work on. But he's got all the physical tools. He's just got to get the fundamentals, the technique down and understand how to play. But right now he's struggling a little bit.
Are you seeing anything that could project toward like longer term success or any flashes anywhere? Sometimes you can see, the talent's there. You just got to hone it in or hone the skill and get acclimated. Do you see any of that, or is it right now it looks bleak?
I wouldn't say bleak. It looks right now. He looks like a 4th round draft choice in the
A
NFL.
4th round rookie. That's what he looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Which I don't know why people expect so much out of guys like that. Last year was the 5th round picks. We went through that. I don't know why. They do, and there's the occasional hit, but far off more often than not, it takes time, and it's going to take a little bit of time with Tai Robinson. But I would say, you could say the same thing about Alex. Like I said, going against Jordan Mailata, it doesn't look good in practice at times. But the good thing is when he's playing other teams, he's not playing Jordan Mailata. So there's so much context to practice, especially with young players who are just trying to learn and try to get better. And sometimes getting beat up by really good players is a way to get better if you handle it correctly. Some guys are going to lose their confidence, and some guys are going to take it as, all right, I'll take my lumps and grow from it.
Yeah. We'll see what Tai can do. What Tai can do there. I want to get to this comment. Eddie says Vanilla Gorilla has turned into Mugilla Gorilla. I think that's that old cartoon from back in the day. If I'm not
and then you're going to go to the other end. That's also going to be a problem because you're going to have the same people who hype this kid up to no end for no reason,
shitting on him.
It's going to happen the other way. And the reality is he's a 4th round draft pick learning to play the game.
Right.
And he probably will ultimately, a lot of it will depend on, how well Booker plays, or it might even be Byron Young.
That's what I was going to ask about next. How are Byron Young and Gabe Hall looking? Because I think people are looking for some depth at that spot, John.
Well, you're only going to keep 5 most likely. So I don't know. And then you'll get some guys on the practice squad, obviously. But
so those 5 are basically slotted then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Because Booker will be 4 and Robinson will be 5.
That's what I mean. They're not going to cut Tai. He's a 4th rounder, and I think Booker's well ahead of the other 2.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen more from Gabe Hall than Byron Young, which is a little bit of a surprise because Byron was like the 70th pick in the draft a couple years ago. Haven't seen a ton from him. Gabe Hall to me is like he's too tall to be a defensive tackle and not stout enough. But the Eagles don't play like old school 5 techniques, like old school 3-4. To me, that's what he is. He's like a base left end in an old school 3-4, but nobody plays that. So
Yeah, right.
I don't know where he fits.
Yeah, good stuff there. We'll continue to discuss that and see who kind of emerges, if anybody does emerge from the defensive tackle room. I was hoping to see a little bit of good on Tai, but we'll wait and see. I think you're right, John. 4th round rookie. Let him learn. Let him develop a little bit. John, Moro Ojomo continues to look good, huh, man? I think optimism are growing on Moro Ojomo this year.
Yeah, he's a good player. It's a matter of how good. I don't think he's going to be, Joe Green, but
how about Milton Williams? Can he get closer to Milton? We talked about that a week ago. We were in disagreement on it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's going to be Milton Williams from last year. But remember, it took Milton Williams 4 years to get to Milton Williams of last year.
Right. Well, remember, that's what I argued. I felt like Moro was further along through his 2 years than Milton was after 2 years from Milton. Now, it's hard to go back and think about what Milton was before he became a great player last year. But I feel like what's his name is doing a nice job and really has taken control. I mean, Johnny was a 7th round pick, so I think this is great what we're getting out of Moro Ojomo.
Yeah, I mean, he's tremendously athletic. His deal is he's undersized, but he's very strong for his size. So that's going to help him. But as it holds up, to me, the biggest question is how many reps can he hold up? Is he going to wear down? Is he going to get, pushed around by some of the bigger offensive linemen? We always talk about Jalen Carter against the Rams, which were, I don't know, his 2 rushes at the end of the game were like snaps 69 and 70. So, he's playing that level late in games with a shitload of snaps. Moro Ojomo's probably not going to be able to hold up like that. So, now you don't expect him to play as much as Jalen Carter, but to me, the question is about size, run support, and other people take advantage of it. And the good thing about that is, again, I bring it up all the time. Most people don't want to play like the Eagles play. So half of that takes care of itself.
Right.
You're not going to have a bunch of teams coming in and saying, "Oh, the Eagles are undersized here. They're undersized here. They're undersized here. Let's go run the ball." Doesn't work that way. You gotta build your team to run the football effectively, and most teams don't bother because they'd rather play a different way. So some of that takes care of itself.
Right. Johnny Mac, let's get to that edge rusher room. Nolan Smith still not out there. And you mentioned they had some movement. So finally you get Azeez Ojulari on the other side. They moved him over. How does he look? How does Josh Uche look? How does the depth of that room look right now, John? You kind of said it was a little bleak once Nolan left. Are you seeing any signs from those guys? Is your concern level lessening at all at the edge rusher position? Where do you stand on it? What are you seeing from those guys?
I'm just looking out my window. It's as bleak as the grayness outside my window. No, Azeez Ojulari did move. Jalix Hunt moved. Azeez has been playing.
Oh, Azeez stayed. Okay, they put Jalix on the other side. Got it.
Yeah, Jalix moved to the other side. And Josh has mainly stayed on the left side. Azeez has been on the right side. And Jalix has been strictly on the right side until today, and they flipped him over to replace Nolan with the first team, and they gave Uche a shot at left end on Tuesday, and they gave Ojulari a shot at right end today. And my early assessment, and it's only 6 practices, but my early assessment is I hope Jihad Campbell's a good edge rusher. That's my early assessment.
Yeah, because if he can get over there, we will see what happens. A little breaking news here on the show, Johnny Mac. Terry McLaurin officially has requested a trade out of Washington.
No, the Eagles are not going to trade for Terry.
Oh, I'm not going there. Holy crap. I'm just bringing it up because that's an NFC East rival and maybe the team we got to deal with the most this year, but a lot of problems over there. And I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think he's worth 33, what he's asking for? I get it. He's a good player, but boy, I understand the Commander's side as well. Do you want to pay a 30-year-old wide receiver that? I don't know. What do you think of that situation?
Yeah, that's a tough decision. I mean, he's a very good player. The most impressive part about Terry McLaurin is what he did prior to last season.
Right, with all the shitty ass.
Yeah, exactly. With a host of bad teams and bad quarterbacks. So he's obviously a good player. He's kind of been a thorn on the Eagles side. He's always played well against the Eagles for the most part, but he is a little bit older, and yeah, I hesitate, but look, they're trying to win. So they have to figure something out with Terry McLaurin. That's one of those things where, they consider their window open. I probably don't agree with it quite as much as they do. But what they've done with all the veteran players, and then you're going to walk away from Terry. No, you got to figure it out. You got to do it. You got to. There's no alternative. So, and ultimately, I think they will figure it out. But yeah, I mean, he's a good player. And it's not my money. It's Josh Harris's money. So
I think that's part of the problem, though. You know, Fly Parks brings up a good point. Pay him all the years he played on your bad teams. New ownership, new GM, they don't give a fuck.
You don't pay people for what they did. You're paying people for what you think they're going to do.
Exactly.
And that's the hard part of it. Because if you get too loyal, and Howie's been there, you know, in 2017, you know, he now in hindsight, he thinks he was too loyal to a certain degree. And it's tough. That might be the toughest thing, because you develop a great affinity for players that have done great things for your organization. And somebody that would be Terry McLaurin would be that category for Washington. But is it worth it at this stage of his career? I would say yes. In the short term, you want to keep it as short as possible, 2 years. And most deals are 2 years in reality. But, and then you can move on if you have to move on. But they've signaled by everything they've tried to do and everything they have done and all the veteran players that they brought in that they think they're ready to win. Well, then you can't just, similar to the Eagles with the young players and all the one-year players, you know, you don't just change that and trade for Trey Hendrickson and you've been disciplined. Same thing with Washington. That was your plan. See it through. I don't think it's going to work, but it's definitely not going to work if you don't see it through.
Yeah, you signed Javon Kinlaw and Bobby Wagner and all these old dudes, and now you're going to let Terry McLaurin go. It's one step forward, 2 steps back. We'll see what they end up doing in Washington. That is interesting. Do you think Terry McLaurin is better receiver than Devontae Smith?
No.
Me neither. Thank you very much. I was hoping you would say that because I've been saying that. I got in a fight with somebody about that. I think it was Cilio I got a battle with about that. And I'm like, I'm taking Smitty all day.
I think Devontae's a very good receiver, but a lot of people aren't going to understand that because, you know, he doesn't have the numbers.
Right.
Whereas Terry has better numbers. He doesn't get the opportunities. He plays.
Terry's numbers aren't even that much better, man. They're marginally better. They are better, but they're not crazy. Like he's never had 1,500 yards in a year. He gets.
But I don't think people consider Devontae to be at the top of the wide receiver, and he isn't. I'm not talking top 5, but you know, I think he's a top 20 receiver in the NFL easily. He does everything, even though his size. He's a great blocker, which is bizarre. He's got such a weird body.
I know, and his hands are incredible. Some of the catches I've seen him make are just tremendous. Sideline catches, toe tappers, they're really nice.
Oh, he's unbelievable at the toe tap. He's got these big hands.
Yeah.
And he's like built out of steel, like steel cables. Like he's so thin, but he's physical. Yeah, he's a great player. He's a great player. And if he was on a bad team and he was a number 1 wide receiver, everybody'd be raving about him. But he's another guy. He's like, he'd rather win, which I'd rather have, and his mentality too. And his willingness to not complain and not ask for the football, which is not always an easy thing to find when it comes to wide receivers in this league.
Yeah, we'll see. John, real quick, final question on this. What do you think the number is? What do you think the fair number is? If you were involved in the negotiation, John, what would you say? I can't give you 33. Come on, let's do 28, 30. What would you say is the fair number in that negotiation?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. You know,
I think you want the DK guy. I think DK got 33, which feels real heavy to me. I mean, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, where the salary cap is going. I mean, I think people get caught up in the numbers because they don't realize where the salary cap is going. You know, I saw Mikal Bridges in the NBA signed an extension, and I looked at it, and I go, Jesus, they're paying this guy. I think it was $160 million extension, but that's the going rate in the NBA, and he was taking less than he could have gotten. So, I mean, that's the going rate, and he's your best receiver by far, and you consider yourself a contender. You got to get it done. You got to get it done. And it's overrated from the standpoint, again, you structure the contract to be 2 years, 2 years of guaranteed money, and then you can get out of it. So I think a lot of these teams outwit themselves. What's one thing another thing Howie's very good at. All right, you have to understand you're going to make mistakes. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. But when you do make a mistake, you got to have the contingency ready, and you got to be willing to move quickly and try to move on from it. By no means am I saying Terry McLaurin's going to be a mistake. My point is they got to get it done. Same thing with the Bengals and Hendrickson. Same thing with the Cowboys and everybody that they ultimately signed but pay a penalty. The idea is and this is what the Eagles do. They pay their good players, and they pay them top of the line money at the moment. They do it early. To get as big a deal as possible. But remember, I think a lot of people forget, because he's like 11th now, the day Jalen Hurts signed his contract, he was the highest paid player in the history of football. It lasted for, I think, 4 or 5 days. But he was the highest paid. So they pay top of the market for all their stars. That's what you have to do. If you get good players, you have to pay your good players.
Yeah, and identify which ones you want to keep. That's the other thing I think the Eagles do well right now, John. You use the phrase shit or get off the pot. I love that phrase. The Eagles do that, man. Like if they don't want you long term, like they cut the cord. I would say 28 of the teams in the NFL, if they paid Bryce Huff that contract last year, they wouldn't have moved on from him as quick as Howie Roseman did.
Oh, no, very few people. No, well, because I think Bryce was a big part of that as well.
Well, yeah.
So I can't.
That was not the perfect example. But, I mean, in general, it does seem like the Eagles, when they identify a player long-term, they pay him right away. And when they don't, or they identify he's not long-term, they're already looking to replace quick.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to make some difficult decisions, as they did with Josh and Milton and Slay and CJ. And everybody they lost. And, one they got back that they weren't expecting it back in Dallas Goedert. So all those guys were below the demarcation line. But the funny thing is the Eagles have so many good players. They had to make these difficult decisions. Most other teams don't have to make these difficult decisions because they don't have that many good players, and they still hem and haw.
Right.
It's like, if you have a good damn player, pay him.
That's where I think Lurie comes in. Howie just has the leeway with the money to be able to shake and bake when he wants to shake and bake. I think that's a big part of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Jeffrey's at the height of it all. I mean,
yeah.
That's the biggest advantage the Eagles have over anybody.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Lurie, because he enables them to do what they need to do. And he gives the okay. And not everybody does that. To say the least. Like Jerry Jones.
Yeah, right. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the secondary. I want to talk about the safety spot. We'll talk about the corner battle with Adoree' Keeley. Talk about the update on how those guys played. We'll do that after our commercial break. I do want to get to some super chats here today in the opening hour. Johnny Mac, let's get to them right now. JD3 checking in. What's up, brother? Good to see you in here. He's now got the Ojomo jersey, John, as the pick.
Oh, man.
He retired the Bryant jersey.
Come on. Harrison Bryant's still alive?
I know. He's got a super chat on him tonight, so we'll get to it. JD3 says, Terry ain't old enough to get a contract in Washington. You got to be at least 40 with a hip replacement to get a contract.
Yeah, they signed a lot of veteran guys.
They did, man.
Yeah.
Eagles and Commanders kind of chose to go the opposite ways this summer.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting story. It really is.
I do too.
I agree. Some of them I don't like, but some of them I do like. Bobby Wagner being number one probably on that list, who's an older player who's still playing at a really high level. I don't like Deebo Samuel. I never, not never liked him. Early in his career, I liked him, but he's a manufactured touch player. And Kyle Shanahan was great at using him, and there are very few people that are going to be disciplined enough to use him like that. Now, Cliff Kingsbury's an interesting guy, but, he's more of a spread guy, so I don't see him being able to do what Kyle did with him. And remember, at the end in San Francisco, he wasn't playing that well. He's dropping the football and all that kind of stuff. So, and Javon Kinlaw, I have no idea why you would move on from Jonathan Allen and say, hey, let's bring in Javon Kinlaw. That makes no sense to me. But, I don't know everything about John. Maybe they know something I don't know. He's on their team, Jonathan Allen. Maybe there's something with him and he's not the player he once was. But he was a hell of a player. Hell of a lot better than Javon Kinlaw.
Yep, I agree with you. Good stuff there. Crowley checks in. DK is making 33 mil, so what he's asking for isn't crazy, in my opinion. Terry is better than
crazy.
Terry is better than DK, in my humble opinion. I kind of agree.
I take DK, but I agree with the sentiment.
Yeah, they're different type of receivers.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment. That's the going rate. Good player, good receiver, pay him.
Yep. Agreed. JD3 again. Worried our fullback is fragile. Harrison agenda coming.
Yeah, well, it may be, Ben's coming off a torn ACL, but I got news for you, JD. They ain't using a fullback then. They're not using it. They're not using a fullback to use a fullback. Yeah. They're using a fullback because they like Ben Van Sumer. They will simply go back to 11 personnel and one back 99% of the time.
Right.
And for the people that say A.J. Dillon, because he weighs 247 pounds, he's not a fullback. Never been a fullback, not a fullback, has stinger issues. The last guy in your world you want to bury his head into some linebacker as a fullback. So A.J. Dillon's not playing fullback. Harrison Bryant's not playing fullback. They will simply not use a fullback if it doesn't work with Ben.
Josh Herman checks in. JD, appreciate it. Josh Herman, what's up, brother? He says, I thought Filio could cut the best promo on here, but J-Mac, the one you did last night, we need more angry J-Mac. You stole the show. I think he's stuck because I posted up the clip last night, John, of you roasting the super chatters.
Well, I don't recall the actual.
I think that's what Herman's talking about. I'm not sure, but I think
I don't recall the actual promo. But yeah, I can cut a promo when I need to cut a promo.
Yes, you can, J-Mac. There's no doubt about it. D Hughes checks in. What's up, D Hughes? He says, "Would you say Hurts is similar to Phillip Rivers as far as not liking motion, and will it be like this for his whole career, being more comfortable without it?" It's a good question.
Well, Phillip hated motion. And Nick Sirianni loves Phillip Rivers. But boy, he loves Phillip Rivers. But no, they're not similar at all. Phillip was just he was extremely adept at getting information from formations instead. Like a lot of people think,
right.
Well,
he was old school in the way he read the defense.
Yeah, he's just very good at it. And so no, and I don't think Jalen's uncomfortable with motion. I think it's more of, the Eagles just weren't very good at it and, scaled back to where they were effective. And I think the assumption that you need motion to be effective, you need execution to be effective. And they were better doing less movement. And maybe it is because of Nick and because of what he learned with Phillip Rivers and that kind of stuff to do it formationally instead. They tried it more with Kellen. Kellen loves motion, grew up with it, had that discussion with him. Once it in his, you'll see it in New Orleans. It's a part of what he does. So a lot of it is dependent on the coach. And I think Nick is comfortable probably because of his time with Phillip Rivers doing it a different way.
Good stuff there. D Hughes, thanks for the super chat, brother. Thanks everybody for the super chats tonight. Appreciate it. Final day of July here, everybody. We click into August tomorrow. All right. And then we'll be just over 1 week, 1 month away from the football
man. Elliot, close circuit to Elliot. He just put up a poll. Would you give up a second-round pick for Terry McLaurin? Stop it. Stop it.
Would you, John? Would you do it, Johnny Mac? No, I wouldn't. Are you kidding me?
My God.
I'd rather give up a second rounder for a star safety or cornerback. Hell, shit, that'll change the dynamic.
I'm going to give up. There's one football.
Yeah.
I was joking when I said no. Hashtag no, as they always say. This is a top-tier receiver. It's not going to be happy being the third receiver catching 40 balls. Yeah.
We're not even a passing offense. That's so unnecessary. We do not need him. All right, good stuff, everybody. Appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Hit the like button on the show. We'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk a little bit of cornerbacks. I'm going to talk about Mac McWilliams, who continues to have a good camp. We'll talk about Keely Ringo, Adoree Jackson, and all the other big pressing needs and pressing battles going on at Eagles training camp right now. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
Welcome to the